What's up, gamers? Welcome to episode 8 of the Busted Buttons podcast. This is Red, joined as always by Hick. Today we're going to spend some time talking about the new Nintendo Direct mini presentation that came out recently. Then we're going to take a little link to the past and talk about one of our favorite consoles growing up. I had to get that in there, of course. The Super NES, which was definitely one of the staples of both of our gaming childhoods. Then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about PC gaming and Hick's new adventures in that arena. And also we'll give some updates on our adventures in Animal Crossing New Horizons. And of course we'll talk a little bit about gaming and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic that we're all dealing with right now. So with all that on our plate, Hick, where would you like to start us out?
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and start with this Nintendo Mini Direct, or Nintendo Direct Mini. Man, you got your wordplay all good with the link to the past, and I can't even say the freaking words that are right in front of me. But it was cool to see today. Like, you know how things are just kind of chaotic and crazy in the world, and we'll kind of address that at the end of this podcast. But it was just nice to get some new gaming news. We got Xbox recently, we got PlayStation recently, and now we get some Nintendo news. Not really a lot that I'm excited about. Xenoblade, I think that's right. Is that how you say it? Doesn't matter. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition's coming out in May. I'm going to kind of just run through these real quick. We got a new Smash Brothers Ultimate character coming in June. Bravely Default, it's getting a 2020 release date. We don't know the specific date. Pokemon Sword and Shield is getting an expansion pass. We got BioShock and Borderlands 2K games coming to the Nintendo Switch, which kind of sucks because I just got the BioShock collection for free on PlayStation, so I'm definitely playing it over on PlayStation. We got some updates for the Animal Crossing New Horizons and the Ring Fit Adventure, and then Red, I'll let you talk a little bit about the Star Wars one.
Well, everyone knows I'm a huge, or you should know, you may not know just from the podcast, but I am a huge Star Wars fan. So one of the things that definitely jumped out to me was the announcement that Star Wars Jedi Academy is actually available for Switch now. It's part of the Jedi Knight series that first came out on PC actually back in the early 2000s. And I played one of them. I believe I played Jedi Outcast back on the original Xbox. But I never played the rest of the series. I think there was like a Dark Forces, then Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy. So I think it's 4 games in the series. So I'm pretty excited to see Jedi Academy was the last game of the series making its way to Switch. I've never played it, but I am an absolute whore for Star Wars, so I'm going to check that out. I was also excited to see that they are porting Star Wars Episode 1 Racer to the Nintendo Switch. Now, we didn't get a release date for this one yet, but I played the crap out of it on the Nintendo 64 growing up, because back then it was always like Mario Kart for me. So to get another racing game that was way different in terms of like the speed, the length of the tracks, the mechanics that go into upkeep, like keeping your pod, maximizing the stats on your pod racer, like all that was so much fun. Plus the Star Wars environment. Even though, Episode 1 isn't exactly the most beloved Star Wars movie.
Yeah. But that scene right there with the race is awesome.
It really is. And the game for 64, I thought was amazing. So I'm excited to see that come to the Switch at some point as well. Like I said, we don't have a release date for it yet, but I'm excited for both those games. So the Star Wars is definitely what stood out to me. I know you just ran through 5 or 6 things there, Hick. Did any of them really jump out to you as something you're excited about?
No, I said that already, but I'll say it again. No, I'm not really excited really about anything on there. The BioShock and the Borderlands thing is cool, but like I said, I don't even know what Borderlands actually is, so I'll have to look into that one. But I've kind of been back and forth on BioShock, and then like I said, it was if you're a PlayStation Plus member, you got for free. I think it was either this month or last month, so I'm definitely doing that one on the PS.
BioShock
nothing that really excited me. Like, I think the Star Wars racing one will be cool, but other than that, I know you're kind of upset about these Nintendo Directs. Do you want to tell people why?
I'm not upset about Nintendo Directs. I'm upset about the noisy ass, entitled little fucker fans who have been bitching. There are literally Twitter accounts dedicated to how long has it been since the last Nintendo Direct. These people feel so fucking entitled, like Nintendo owes them something. And it blows my mind. I'm like, you've had Nintendo Directs dedicated to Pokemon Sword and Shield. You've had the Animal Crossing Directs. You've had the Indie Directs. And people, for some reason, think, that doesn't count because they're focused on a specific game. Guess what? They're Directs from
Yep.
Nintendo. They're a damn Nintendo Direct. And all these whiny ass people who act like it's the end of the fucking world because Nintendo won't give them news about what's coming this year. It blows my damn mind. I mean, I know like Pokemon and Animal Crossing are not necessarily our favorite genres. They're not our Nintendo games that really appeal to us that much, although I know you're enjoying Animal Crossing. But they're still huge releases for Nintendo. And why the hell would they want to overshadow those releases by focusing on stuff coming out months from now?
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo is always focused on stuff in the near future. What is coming next month? You know, that's what we want to give the fans information on. And to me, it's just, and it's not a lot of people. It really isn't. But it's a very vocal minority of people who are like, give us this, Nintendo. Give us this. You owe us this. You owe us this. It's the same people that get pissed when a game gets delayed. And those people just drive me crazy. It's like, these people do not owe you shit. So get over it. Enjoy the information you do have. Enjoy the games you do have. And get the hell over it. So it's weird that I've been this worked up over something 2 weeks in a row. Last week it was GameStop. This week it's this Nintendo Direct stuff. It's like, people, you just got 30 minutes of great stuff. Yes, not all of it's going to appeal to you, just like it doesn't all appeal to us. But you know what? It's better than nothing. I'm sorry you didn't hear about Breath of the Wild 2. Get over it.
Man, damn, I didn't, just like last week, I didn't know you were that pissed off about GameStop. I knew that you were upset about the Nintendo Direct, but I didn't know that you were that upset about it. For me, it's
just entitled people. It's just entitled people.
We know who these people are. They just they just like to bitch, so they do it. For me, if it has Nintendo Direct in the name, then it's a Nintendo Direct. But let's we've talked about some games in the future. Now we want to link it to the past.
Hell yeah.
Not as good as yours, but close enough. And we want to kind of go back. I think with all this coronavirus stuff going on, like me and Red just wanted to go to one of our happy places. Actually, before we get there, I do want to say one thing. Here in the future, probably the next episode, we're going to, not every episode, but we're kind of going to start going into more depth on games and also franchises.
Absolutely.
So that will be coming soon. We're planning on talking about God of War. We just haven't sat down and really talked about it, but we will be going into those franchises and games for long periods of times on certain podcasts, not all of them. But before I went to the Super Nintendo, I kind of want to put that out there. But now, back to the Super Nintendo, and like I was trying to say, with all this coronavirus stuff going on, we kind of just, me and Red wanted to go to a happy place. And I know that Red kind of looks at the Nintendo 64 being his childhood system. Even though we're close in age, I feel like the Super Nintendo, like that's what I feel like that I grew up on. Because when that came out, I was 8 years old. So let's say, what's a console generation? Maybe 5-6 years. That to me was like my 8 to 13 range. And that was perfect for me in gaming.
And I was a little young at the beginning of the Super Nintendo era. I didn't get one until a couple years after it came out. But, I mean, to me, yes, I mean, the 64 I'll always equate with, like, you know, the multiplayer with my family. I know we talked about that a little bit a couple episodes back. The Super Nintendo was all about single-player experiences for the most part for me. I mean, you had some of the best platformers of all time were during that era, whether it was the Super Mario games, Donkey Kong Country games, and, you know, we'll get into all those here in a minute. But just to me, if the Nintendo 64 was all about the multiplayer memories with my siblings, then the Super Nintendo was about those single-player games that just, even now, they still stand out to me as some of my all-time favorite games. So, I mean, I know you didn't game a lot with your siblings and stuff, but would you say the same thing? You were more about the single-player back then?
No, actually, I would not. See, we never know which direction we're actually going with this stuff, which is kind of crazy
right?
because we talk about it all the time. But no, actually, with the Super Nintendo, I had more multiplayer experiences because during that time, I'll say his name, I was hanging out a lot with Levi. And like we would just sit here and like we would play like Super Nintendo, Mario Kart. Like we played together a lot on that system. So I had a lot of the multiplayer experience with Super Nintendo. And then as I kind of got older, like, you know, I was always playing sports growing up. But when you get a little bit older, you start getting out of the house more and more tournaments. You're going more places. And that's why with the Nintendo 64, like I said in a prior episode, I really didn't get to play with other people that much on the Nintendo 64. But yeah, with the Super NES, like I remember me and Levi just playing Mario Kart, Super Mario World. I'm going through all my games here, right? Anything that had two-player, we basically did. And then we also, and I don't have it on the list right here, but I had this not weird game. It's called Kyle Ripken Jr. Baseball. I was like looking at
wow.
some like top 100 lists today. It wasn't even on there, so it wasn't that great of a game. But it was the baseball game I had. I couldn't go out at 8 years old and just buy whatever fucking game I wanted to. So it's the one I had to play. But being that me and him were both playing baseball at that time, it's a game that I played a lot. And even though it wasn't great, it was still great memories that I got from playing the game.
You know, just the jump from the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo. I mean, even at that age when we were a little younger and we didn't understand a lot about graphics and stuff, I remember the first time I saw the Super Nintendo, my aunt and uncle actually randomly had one. They were always the ones that were getting us technology gifts for birthday and Christmas. We loved them. Of course, they're always giving us the fun stuff. But my aunt and uncle had a Super Nintendo and they had Donkey Kong Country. And I remember seeing that for the first time and just seeing the backgrounds and the environments of those levels. It blew my mind when you're coming from like, you know, Super Mario Brothers on the original NES or even, you know, Mario Brothers 3 to something like Donkey Kong Country where the backgrounds were just so detailed for the time. And it just, the speed at which you could kind of go through the levels, it really blew my mind. And that's what prompted us, like me and my brothers, to get the Super Nintendo. There was a bundle with the Super Nintendo and Donkey Kong Country. And like I said, it was a couple of years after the Super Nintendo came out. But man, once we experienced it at my aunt and uncle's house, we were like, we got to go get this.
Yeah.
We pooled our allowances and all that shit and went out and got ourselves with little help from mom and dad, of course, got ourselves the Super Nintendo with Donkey Kong Country. But we've kind of touched on a few of the games already. But, you know, what were some of what are some of your all-time favorite Super Nintendo games?
I mean, definitely Super Mario World. I mean, I played that. You know, I was going through this list today of like these top 100 games. Like, once again, with the Nintendo 64, like I thought I played a lot of games. And then I'm going through this, I'm like, damn, I really didn't play as many games as I thought I did. But the
you can only afford 1 or 2 games a year when you're a kid.
yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. You got to wait until Christmas, so you can't go out and get whatever you want to. But I think the games that I did have, I played a lot. And kind of going back to your question, favorite games. And like I said, easily Super Mario World. I remember going through that numerous times. I mean, the sprites, I mean, obviously, yes, it was 16-bit, but the sprites, the colors, the music, it was just, kind of go back to your point, it was all so much more advanced than the NES. In that game, like, I mean, it was just awesome. The levels were fun. The overworld map, I had a blast going through. You had secrets all over the place. The bosses were good. Some of the, you know, cinematics, they weren't long, but they were good. And then you had that Star World that was just amazing. And then, I don't know why, but the Lava World, the last one, I actually don't know if it was called Lava World or not. But we go to fight Bowser. I mean, everything in that game just came together. And then, you know, Mario Kart, oh my God, man. Me and Levi played a ton of Super Mario Kart. I mean, you could just replay and replay and replay. And then, like, you know, you're going through, what is it? The Mushroom Flower Star. And then you get to that Special Cup. And man, those tracks are awesome. And then you get to the first time seeing Rainbow Road. And it just blows your fucking mind how cool that is. Nowadays,
there were no walls on the track. There were no walls on the damn track.
Now, nowadays, it just hurts my eyes to even look at that thing. But those two games, I played a lot of those games. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they had that Turtles in Time arcade game. Well, I think it was first on arcade. And then they later redid it for the Super Nintendo. But I played that game a ton. It was so much fun to go through. Kind of a beat 'em up, but just a blast. Like, the graphics were good enough. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were so big during that time. It was cool getting a game that wasn't as hard as the NES one.
Now, you've hit on a couple of the big ones. Some of my sorry, I'm burping. I just took a swig of my beer when you stopped there. But, you know, Super Mario World, of course, is always near the top of people's, you know, not just favorite Mario games, but all-time games. So, I mean, I think you said just about everything there is to say about that one. The sequel is still pretty beloved, but I never played Yoshi's Island very much. Just playing more as Yoshi and just like escorting Baby Mario around kind of threw me off a little bit. And I hated the sound of Baby Mario crying. I think maybe that's to this day why I still can't stand the sound of a crying baby. Mm-hmm. But so I just know the sequel didn't get quite the same love that the original did, but I still enjoyed it. But man, 2 of what I would consider my top 5 favorite games of all time were on the Super Nintendo. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is to this day my favorite game ever. It was a weird crossover between a Mario game and a role-playing game. It was done by Square Enix, who of course is famous for the Final Fantasy games and a lot of other great RPGs. So to me, just at the time, the graphics on Super Mario RPG, the world, the story where you're actually like teaming up with Bowser and you have a party instead of just controlling Mario or Luigi. To me, Super Mario RPG, just the music and everything else came together so well at a time where I honestly had never really played an RPG before. I was like, I don't even know what that stood for when I first got the game. I just knew it looked awesome from the previews in Nintendo Power magazine back in the day. But to this day, Super Mario RPG is still my favorite game ever. And then, of course, we're Zelda fans. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda game of all time. I think it's your second favorite Zelda game, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know how the hell I left Link to the Past for you. Like, I was looking at the notes.
Right?
I totally blazed over that one. I was like, do I be an asshole and stop him right when he gets to that one, or do I just let him go? But you know what? It's your favorite Zelda game, so I'm going to let you go on this one.
Oh, to me, it is just, the gameplay is perfect. The difficulty level is exactly where it needs to be for a Zelda game. It's not as hard and confusing as the original, but it's got more challenge to it than modern day Zelda games. So and then the story, the world felt huge at the time. Plus you had the light world, dark world. I've talked about A Link to the Past many times over on our, Zelda, Two Guys Playing Zelda YouTube station, all that stuff.
YouTube station?
Sorry, YouTube channel.
What the hell's
I'm all
a
worked up
YouTube
now.
station?
I promise I've only had 3 beers. But so those two games though, Super Mario RPG and A Link to the Past, are two of my all-time favorite games. And I think that is a big reason that the Super Nintendo stands out to me. It's just, those were foundational games to me.
Yeah.
Like when I'm really starting to comprehend gaming and get into it more and more, was that time frame. And I think that's really why they've stuck with me more than, more modern games.
I mean, it's the first system that we could really play. Like the NES, yeah, I did have it. I did play it. But I was just a little bit too young. And yeah, I played it a little bit after I even got the Super Nintendo. But this didn't have that effect on me. Whereas the Super Nintendo, like I said, it was released at the perfect time. But, kind of going back to your Donkey Kong Country conversation, like the graphics.
Yes.
I mean, I remember how mind-blowing those were at the time. It felt like it was a game on a whole new system. It was that crazy good, and just, I don't know. I never got the second and the third one, and I don't really know why. I think they might have been released late in the console's life cycle, and maybe that's why I didn't get them, but I definitely should have got them, because I actually heard that the second one from numerous people is the best one. But you know what? Forget Donkey Kong. I'm cool. I'm done with that. I want to talk about Link to the Past a little bit more.
I'll turn it over to you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of going back to your whole, I mean, the first time when you entered that dark world, like the first part of it, it's okay. Like, 3 dungeons, get the Master Sword. Okay, that's cool. And then you get transferred to that dark world. And that, for me, is where that game just completely changes. Like, it just completely becomes something different. Yeah, the music was cool up to that point. Yeah, it looked beautiful the best way that it could. But that dark world, it's just something different. And the music is still one of my favorite themes, the overworld themes, and probably overall Zelda theme, probably still one of my favorites. And I just remember getting to that for the first time. I was like, what the hell is this place? I don't know. It's a little bit dark, obviously, but I love it. And then when you get on top of that pyramid at the very beginning, and there's that backdrop, which is a backdrop of a place that you're going to go to later in the game, like that just blew my damn mind, man. And I mean, that game easily, for me, the best game on that system. I know you have Super Mario RPG ahead of that. For me, there's no contest. It's A Link to the Past. And one other random thing, we won't talk about that too much because we got a channel where we talk about all Zelda stuff. Yeah. But there's just a couple cool things in that dark world, like going to that swamp for the 6th dungeon. Like that place was just awesome. Yes. The rain, then the rain stops. And then I don't know why I weirdly like this, but seeing that dungeon Turtle Rock on the top right portion of Death Mountain the entire game, and they had the crystals like showing you on the map where it's at, and you're like, how do I get there? Like, that seems like so far away, and then later in the game you make it there. Like, that's just a very cool experience, and just overall, the game was just amazing.
I mean, it feels like an accomplishment when you get to those far-flung places on the map. I mean, Link's Awakening was, and this kind of going off on a tangent, like you said, but Link's Awakening was kind of the same way with Eagle's Tower, up in the far right corner of the map. When you finally get to those places, it does feel like an accomplishment. But I do want to touch really quickly on Donkey Kong Country again. You mentioned a lot of people have said the second one is the best, and I will echo that. In my opinion, Diddy's Conquest was the best of the series, even including, Donkey Kong Country Returns. I haven't beaten Tropical Freeze, but I finally actually played some of it. I still think Diddy's Kong Quest, is the best in the series, and the minecart levels. The freaking minecart levels are what really drew me to those games to begin with, just flying with the background racing by in the background, those split-second reflexes you have to have. So I won't harp on Donkey Kong Country too much more, but there were
those minecart levels are a lot better than those damn rocket levels. I absolutely hate those fucking rocket levels in Donkey Kong Country. Those, and like you sit here saying you haven't beat Tropical Freeze yet. I don't think you will, because I got to the last boss. I can never beat him, dude. So I've experienced the game, but I've not beat it either.
Well, fingers crossed I'll get there. But there are a few other franchises that I didn't necessarily play much of at the Super Nintendo time, but they're still considered huge successes. The Final Fantasy games really seem to come in their own during the Super Nintendo time. I know 4 and 6 are widely considered, some of the best role-playing games ever. I know, further along you go, people say, Final Fantasy 7, of course, for the PlayStation is a landmark game. 10 was a big deal. But 4 and 6, people still look back on those very fondly. And, they really consider it like a golden age of not just platformers like we've talked about, but RPGs, because you had the Final Fantasies, you had Earthbound, you had Chrono Trigger. I mean, there were a lot of great turn-based role-playing games back in that time. You also had stuff like the Street Fighter series, the Super Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter Turbo. Street Fighter.
And you had Mortal Kombat, too, at that time.
Oh, dude, the fighting games, they were in the arcades, but getting them ported to the Super Nintendo, that made for some fun multiplayer. I know I said I didn't do a lot of multiplayer, but those fighting games were a lot of fun on the Super Nintendo back then, because, we lived in bumfuck nowhere, southern Indiana.
Yeah.
So it's like we didn't have arcades to go to, so getting those kind of fighting games on the consoles was a nice change of pace. We just didn't get to experience those in arcades like a lot of people did. So the Super Nintendo, just at the end of the day, it was such a seminal system for both of us. It came around at the perfect time for us growing up, and just those games that we played back then are still in our head to this day, because that's where we really came into our own as gamers. And I don't know what else you can say about a system like that.
I got a question. Did you never go to River Falls Mall?
Oh, rarely.
Oh, jeez, I was just saying, you're sitting here, you're talking about not going to arcades. I was like, man, there was a freaking arcade like 20 minutes down the road you all look it up. It's no longer in existence, but River Falls Mall used to be by our hometown. That place was freaking awesome. So when you said that, I'm sitting over here like, what the hell is he talking about? I know what arcade that I went to, and I played it plenty of times, and it was a blast. Yeah, but anyways, I kind of you talked about Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Yes, two games I actually played a lot. A couple more things I want to touch on before we move on. Aladdin. For some weird reason, that Aladdin game I played a ton, and it was awesome. And you actually don't see a lot of movies translate to video games very well, but that is one that if you can go back and play that on the virtual console, or however you want to do it, Wii U. I don't think it's available on the Switch, but if you have a chance sometime, go back and play that. How we've not mentioned NBA Jam. Like, that set the course.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it really didn't set the course for sports games because it was so ridiculous. But that was a game. Oh, my God. I mean, just doing flips, all the crazy dunks and everything. A blast of a game. Played it a ton. And then Super Punch-Out. Oh my gosh, it wasn't as good as the original Punch-Out, but still a very strong game that I played a ton. Actually, I think I did beat that game barely. I struggled on the final boss, but those are some games I just kind of wanted to mention. But you know what? We've talked about the future. We've talked about the past. Red, how about we talk about some of the present day gaming?
I'm not really sure why you're handing it over to me, because these next couple topics are definitely focused on you. So you should have just fucking kept talking the whole time.
Man, I got allergies right now. So sometimes I just hit that level where I kind of just got to pass it on because my throat's getting dry. I'm getting all stopped up or whatever. I think that's a pretty good excuse to use. But yeah, I don't know why I threw it to you, because I looked down at the notes. It's like Animal Crossing and PC gaming, and those are all me. So I'll go ahead and I'll talk about them. Now, at the beginning of the episode, you kind of talk about how I liked Animal Crossing. I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, at first it was a very cool game, a new concept. Most games are pretty new pretty exciting when you first start playing them. And being that it was a new franchise for me, yeah, it was pretty exciting. But as I'm playing it more and more, I don't know, man. It just gets a little bit boring. And I'm not gonna say that I'm done with it. I'm gonna keep on playing it, kind of fill it out, see how it goes. But yeah, it was very cool at first. But this whole life simulation and like paying off your debts and planting flowers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a calm game. Like I said, Nintendo, it looks beautiful. But there's just so many points in the game where I'm kind of like, I really don't know what I want to do, and I don't really feel like going to collect seashells on the beach to like pay off some of my debt. Okay, that's another thing that pisses me off. I don't want to play a fucking video game and have to pay off debt in the fucking video game. So,
especially a mortgage, jeez.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I know the first couple of days, I think on our last podcast, I was talking about how much I liked it. It just recently came out. Now I've had a little bit longer to play it, and within the last 2 days, I kind of been like, I don't know what exactly I feel about this. I don't, would I recommend it? I think it depends on what kind of games you like playing. Yes, it's calm, but it's basically a life simulation game. You're going around, you're paying off debts, you're decorating your place, you're talking to people. You know my opinions on that. Like, I like people, man, but... I'm like Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation. Like, yeah, well, I don't even know if he likes people, but I like people, but I don't feel the need to talk to them like all the time. And for some reason, my wife has not understood this. After 4 years of marriage, like, I just don't need to talk sometimes. Like, I'm okay. So when you put me in a game where I go around and I don't have to talk to people, but you earn shit for talking to people. So, You know what? In real life, if I earn shit for talking to people, maybe I would talk to people more, but it's just not really my cup of tea. Yes, I'm going to stick with it a little bit longer, but I just don't think it's my type of game. I don't know if you want to talk anything about it. I know you haven't played it, but do you like any of those life simulation games or anything like that?
It really isn't our genre. I mean, it always made me think of like The Sims. The Sims series is insanely popular with a lot of people. It's easy, it's accessible. But it seems boring. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Is the thing. You talk about getting seashells. I'm like, if I'm finding fucking seashells, I better be trading them in for a sword upgrade at the Seashell Mansion, like Link's Awakening. But it's just I'm glad like a peaceful game like that and just a laid back, relaxing game like that is a good thing. It's a good thing for people to have. And like you said, every video trailer, upload people have done, it does look gorgeous. It's got that Nintendo look, which they always nail. We talk about that a lot. But it just doesn't appeal to me. I'm not saying like every game needs to be freaking Doom level action or anything like that, but just I need some kind of plot. I need some kind of story to push me through. Yep. And to me, it just, like I said, I've never played an Animal Crossing game kind of for that reason. It's just, yes, I know the point is you build your island, you pay off your debts to Tom Nook, all that stuff, but I need a quest. I need an objective of some sort to go after. I mean, the closest thing I've played to like a life sim type game is like I'll play like the like Civilization games where you're building a city, you're building
That's
a
completely
nation.
different though, in my opinion.
It is. Even then, you're still going to war and like trading, and there's like a lot more to it, and like maximizing your city and all that stuff. So it's a lot more detailed and in depth than something like Animal Crossing. So to me, the appeal's never really been there. I'm just knowing you because we've been friends for a long time. We've talked video games for a really long time. Like I wasn't sure how you would like this. I'm glad you took the plunge because I do support Nintendo first party games in general. But I'm not shocked. I'm honestly not shocked to hear your kind of take now that you're a few weeks into it. I mean, it's just.
Well, not a few weeks, but yeah, I mean, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, by the time this gets published, it'll probably be a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Red, I want to apologize to you. When you're talking about the seashells on the beach and trading them in for a sword upgrade in Link's Awakening, I was an asshole. And I sat there and I yelled out the boomerang, and then I realized that I was fucking wrong. It was not the boomerang that you got from the seashells. It was a trade sequence. And why I tried to correct somebody who knows Link's Awakening as well as you do, I just want to say that I'm an asshole. I'm incorrect, and that I apologize. And being like, a guy from Two Guys Playing Zelda and talking Zelda for 6 years, I'm fucking disappointed in myself. Like, I'm a disgrace to the Zelda community. So I am sorry to everyone out there that I yelled boomerang when he was talking seashells. I need to get my shit together. After we're done with this podcast, I will go sit in the corner for a while, and I will stare at the wall just to punish myself. But
shame. For shame.
But let's kind of turn over to PC gaming now. And Red, this for me was like the equivalent of blue balls. And there's one main reason. As you all know, like on our last episode, I was going to start PC gaming soon. And then it just came.
You had bought your laptop. I'm not sure if you'd actually got a chance to try anything yet.
Not that long. I've only played for about an hour because it took me forever to set up. But here's what really just killed the whole experience. I'm still going PC game, but I found out that my VRAM was only 2 gigabytes. I didn't even know what the hell VRAM was before I started playing PC gaming. But kind of looking into that, I was like, oh shit, this is not good. And I have a 4K laptop, and I have 2 4K screens. But I can only play in 1080p if I actually want to play the game, because if I go 4K, it's choppy as hell. If I go a little bit above 1080p, it still doesn't play very smoothly. So sadly, all my PC gaming will have to be done in 1080p, which is not terrible. But when you have 3 4K screens, it is a little disappointing. So do you know with VRAM, can you actually install more of that? Is that a possibility?
Not really, especially with a laptop, because you think with a computer, RAM is generally something you can expand.
Yeah.
You can always buy more RAM. Like mine, when I first built it, had 16 gigs. I dropped in a few more sticks, and I've got it up to 32. VRAM is different because it's connected to your video card, basically, which really drives the graphics of your computer.
Well, could you just get a new video card, though?
You can. It's a little more difficult on a laptop because you'll have to take it somewhere to get it installed, most likely, because it's just you have no space in a laptop to work.
This is all sounding very expensive right now.
It can get there. I've got a full tower desktop, so if I wanted to, I could curl up and sleep in my freaking in my computer tower. So if I want to change out a component,
I want to see that, Red. I want to see you sleep in your PC tower. Take a picture of it and put it on social media.
I'll try. But it's just for a desktop computer, especially if you have a big case, it's easy to swap out. It's expensive. Yeah, you buy a new video card. They're not cheap, but you can upgrade. So you mentioned you have 2 gigabytes of VRAM, which stands for video RAM, because it is strictly for your video card. My video card has 6. So
yeah, when I was looking it up, I was seeing 6 a lot of times.
That's kind of the standard right now, unless you're going ultra high end. So I didn't really think about that when you first started talking about the laptop gaming that I didn't really pay attention to the specs. No offense, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, I actually didn't mention it because I didn't even know what VRAM. I mean, once I saw it, I pretty much knew that stood for video RAM. But I didn't know. I never thought about that spec when it came to PC gaming because I never really done PC gaming.
Yep, and you will notice with computer games, just the amount of settings that you have to mess around with is through the roof. I mean, because you think with a console, every game is built to what that console can achieve. You've got a solid, consistent standard that you're developing the game for. The hardware of an Xbox One. The hardware of a PlayStation 4. There's not much variance there. But with computers, there's an infinite number of combinations of processors, video cards, regular RAM that you could have out there. So I do love that at least most PC games give you those options. And I do recommend doing a little research on them just to kind of see what options are really pushing your performance and potentially slowing you down, because there are 2 or 3 settings that could really make a difference. Obviously, the resolution is a big one. I mean, going from 1080p to 4K is a huge jump. Most of my gaming on my computer is still only at 1080p. In all honesty, I've only hooked up a few games to my 4K TV, and they were ones that were not the brand new state of the art. Something like Witcher 3 that's a couple years old now, I could push that out to 4K without too much trouble. But if something like Doom Eternal, even my computer would probably have a hard time doing 4K on, just because as time advances, I mean, just the detail gets so much more. So do a little research on the settings. Things like you'll see anti-aliasing is a big one. AA.
Yep.
That one is very resource intensive as well. It will push your video card more than a lot of things. So things like that. HDR, of course, is a newer technology we've talked a little bit about when we've been talking about the new consoles and stuff. That's obviously very intensive. So, I mean, with a little bit of Googling around just on the settings you see in the game, you can get an idea for which ones do I need to turn down to get the best, frames per second to get so you don't get a slideshow where it's choppy.
Man, Red, I'm not gonna lie, I was all down about PC gaming starting this podcast, and then you saying that you also play on 1080p and you got 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Like now, you know what? I'm all excited again. Now I can do it. So and I was going to do it because here's the thing: I didn't get my laptop for PC gaming. I got my laptop to do computer stuff, and then it was cool that I was also going to be able to PC game on it. Now, if you have a 4K fucking screen HP, you shouldn't sell it as being able to game in 4K if you only got 2 gigabytes of VRAM. But you know what? I could take it back still, but I've got too much stuff. Like I said, I didn't buy it to be a gaming computer. So, it does do 1080. I have played in 1080. It does work. And with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I actually did when I got to a place where I could stand still, I did 1080p, and then I also put in 4K. And I really didn't see a huge difference. So, with this PC gaming, not really had a chance to do it too much yet, but I'm going to continue. Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer that I can only do 1080 and not 4K. But, I kind of want to get into this. I want to see what it's about. So, I got to sacrifice a little bit right now, but 1080p, that still looks good. So I can still play it. But, man, one thing, that keyboard, now, like I said, I've only played for about an hour because I was playing around with the settings forever. Something that I didn't like initially, I think I will like down the road, but I just don't understand yet how to do it properly. I'm sure there's YouTube videos on how to do all this crap. So I kind of just need to look into it a little bit more, but one of the reasons I haven't played that much, one is Animal Crossing. Been playing a lot of Animal Crossing. 2, this podcast does take a while to put together. But 3, it's a new computer. I got 3 young kids. I kind of try to not have it out if they're around me that much. And I don't want to be sitting here gaming.
That is smart.
And they come by and throw something and break the screen because, thanks to my lovely wife, who I love so much, I'm already dealing with 1 broken electronic screen right now. I don't really want to deal with 2 because I've been talking some shit about it. And then if I break my screen, I'm going to get it all back. So, I got to.
Oh, absolutely.
I swear, God, dude, when she broke that screen, I was like, my God, I can. And she listens to the podcast. I'm like, I cannot break a screen for at least 1 or 2 months, or my ass is going to get handed to me because she's not going to let me forget. But anyways, that's all I had to say about PC gaming. Kind of want to end right here. Kind of a leak their topic, and this is not something that we're going to do very often. I would say we're rarely going to do it, where we kind of get away from gaming, and we're kind of going to talk about the coronavirus because it's just a big topic that I think we kind of need to discuss and kind of maybe help give some advice. Whatever advice we have is not great. We're not doctors. We're not experts or anything like that. But it's just kind of something we want to talk about. So, Red, you kind of want to take us there?
Yeah, it's just, obviously it is the dominant, social topic. Not, like I said, not just gaming, but social topic right now in the world. And, last episode, we talked a lot about, hey, it's a great opportunity to, sit at home, work on your backlog, treat it almost like a bit of a break. But as we're starting to see, even since we recorded just our last episode just over a week ago, lots of states and cities and even entire countries have gone to this shelter in place. Don't go outside unless it's absolutely, or don't go into public unless it's absolutely essential. It's one thing where it's only like a week and you're like, okay, you treat it like a mini vacation. You spend some time at home, maybe knock out a DIY project, play lots of video games, go buy a new game to keep yourself company. But we mentioned this kind of earlier in the podcast. We don't know when the hell this is going to end now. And not to spread panic or be all, like that. But it's just, we don't know. It's a lot of uncertainty right now. And yes, it is a great time to catch up on, your backlog, catch up on your stuff around the house, get to know your wife maybe. I don't know.
Our life, well, she's still going into work actually because she works for an eye doctor and they are considered essential. So, they kind of, I won't go back too much into their business, but she still is working. So it's kind of, it has been nice, not having the kids at the house and everything. But I think people are still in that break concept. And a lot of this, I don't know exactly what Red's going to say on this subject, but a lot of what I'm going to say is probably going to come off as negatively thinking about this stuff. But to me, I think I'm just being real. It's harsh, but it's real. And I think people are still in that break mindset. And I was telling my wife last night, I go, in 2 to 4 weeks, I think this is going to be really bad. I think it's going to be really bad because you're seeing people seeing people getting laid off. The unemployment is skyrocketing. And people can, handle themselves for 2 to 3 weeks without a paycheck. They kind of can figure it out. But once you get into that month without a paycheck and all those bills cycle through and all those bills start doubling up, you know, I know some people have said, like, you know, don't pay us rent or whatever, but there's a lot of people also not doing that. And I honestly think, you know, not to predict the future, but I think this could be one of the worst times of our lives for anybody out there, no matter how young or, well, if you're older, probably. But, like, no matter how young or old you are, like I said, I can't predict the future. Something way worse could happen in the future. But I think this is going to be the worst time of our lives. And I think in 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to see this shit totally take a turn.
And it's crazy because, we're relative, well, for gamers, it might be a little older, but just in general, we're relatively younger people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've dealt with recessions. We've dealt with, we dealt with 9/11, the Gulf War, the second war with Afghanistan, we went through all that, and we've gone through recessions and depressions and stuff. But to me, this is the first time in our lives that it seems like everything has just shut down for an extended period of time like this. Yeah, like 9/11, you're like, everyone go home for a couple days. But then for the most part, things kind of ramped back up fairly quickly. Yes.
It was like a week later, things kind of started to come back together.
Yeah. And this now, it's like, so for instance, our state had said, okay, through April 7th, everyone stay at home. But like, more cases keep piling up. Is it just going to get kicked further and further down the road? We just don't know. And anyone who listens to me either on here or on our Zelda channel or anything knows I love going to the bars. I live in an area where I've got a lot of bars around me. I have a lot of friends in the service industry, and I've heard a lot of them who are not management, who are not owners, who are like, yeah, I'm good for about a month. You know, I can survive a month without the paycheck. They're like, much more than that though, and I'm fucked.
And that's why I'm saying 2 to 4 weeks. Like, I think people, like I said, people are still in that break mindset, which is fine. Yep. And they're still able to pay their bills for the most part. But in 2 to 4 weeks, which is about a month, I think it's going to get really bad. And it sucks to be that negative. But I think what we're trying to tell people is, like, be prepared, because this shit's not getting better. And I was telling Red before we started the podcast, I think that, like, it's going to be like 2 months after we get this all taken care of. Because, like, it lasts in your system for like 30 days, and then people aren't going to want to go out like exactly after that, because they're not going to want to restart the cycle. So I think it's going to be like a month and a half to 2 months after we kind of get this thing taken care of, and there's no more cases. And the fact that we're still going upwards, like, that tells you a lot. Like, I think, like, I know most
it's a scary thought.
People are thinking this is going to be 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a little bit over a month. I'm thinking this could go well into July. And that's like, what, 3 or 4 months from now? And that, I think, is being like kind of early and like a good prediction. I think this is going to go on for a while, and it's going to be hard.
And it could. And I know in our last podcast, we kind of took a little bit of a lighter tone, like, hey, these new games are coming out, spend some time working on your backlog. But, things have escalated a little bit since then. And it's just, even $60 to buy a brand new game, you're talking that's a bill, that's a groceries, that's, everyone has their own financial situation. Some people are in a lot better shape than others. If you're salaried, I know you're probably in a little better shape than someone who's working an hourly job. I get that. But it's like, just be smart. Know your situation. Don't be a dumbass and be like, oh, I got all this time at home. I need something to entertain myself. I'm going to go buy 5 new video games. That's 3 of your utility bills right there.
Buy one and then kind of see what things are like in 2 or 3 weeks. And if you're able to, buy another one. Don't buy a bunch of them at one time. But you know what is free and also, like, takes time away, like, during isolation, occupies your time during isolation? That backlog. That backlog will help you out quite a bit.
I'm with you there. So we hate being downers on this podcast. We hate being negative on. I mean, you've heard us go off on a couple things, but like, this is
real.
A lot of that's,
and I think it's important. Even though this is a gaming podcast, and like I said, we're rarely going to go real world topics. But I think this is just something like, we're never going to forget this. We're never going to forget this year. And I think that even on a gaming podcast, we left it for the very end, but it is still something that needs to be talked about, because Red and I are fortunate that we are able to work from home, so it doesn't affect us too much. And I realize that I'm fortunate because I have been laid off when we hit the recession in 2009. I was laid off, and I can tell you don't make that much money on unemployment. And I'm not sure how many people know exactly how much you make on unemployment. It's not a lot. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make the same amount of income, no, you're not. And like, so,
no,
like
you
I
won't.
said, it comes off negative, but I just want to be real with people and just say, prepare. It's going to get bad. And it's probably going to be a while, at least in my opinion, before it starts getting good. But you know what? Have that gaming help you get through some of this.
Hell yeah. Just don't be a dumbass. Yeah. At the end of the day, don't be a dumbass.
There's so many people that are still going out. Like, here they said only essential businesses, and they're still doing construction and this and that. Construction on houses is not essential. And I think some people are confusing it for my business to run, it's essential that I work. No, that's not the same thing as being an essential business.
Correct. I'm with you 100%. To me, essential businesses, your grocery stores, medical providers, and it's a pretty short list after that.
Yeah.
So we hate to end on a negative note. We normally try to stick at gaming, but this is one of the biggest things that many of us are going to deal with in at least the near, the intermediate future, if not our entire lives.
Well, I think it's important that we talk about it, to be honest with you.
It is. So, well, on that happy and pleasant note, you want to go ahead and wrap us up here?
Yeah, sure, wrap us up. And all these links will be in the description for all this. I'd said all this and then whatever. I said all twice, basically. You can support us.
We never repeat ourselves.
You can support us on we never repeat ourselves. You can support us on Patreon or PayPal. Patreon's like a monthly thing. You get some added benefits with that. PayPal, kind of just a one-off. If you can't support us financially, which obviously during these times is completely understandable, please leave a review or a rating. That greatly helps us out. If you don't like us, still just hit 5 stars. You can say, I clicked the wrong star, or you can just lie about it. Just lie. Just lie. If you hate us, just lie. Hey, just help us out, and just lie about it. We have merchandise on both our websites. Zelda merchandise, obviously, on Two Guys Playing Zelda. And our TGPC gaming website has, all video game merchandise. We may earn a commission on that. Facebook groups we got going on right now, Gaming Realm and Zelda Realm. Be sure to check both of those out. Red, I'm just going to go through the rest of it, okay?
That works for me.
And then we got 2 YouTube channels. We got a YouTube channel for Two Guys Playing Zelda. We have over 10,000 subscribers. We've been doing that for a long time. That's kind of what started everything. That's what TGPC stands for. It's Two Guys Playing Zelda. So go check that out. We also have this podcast on our TGPC Gaming YouTube channel. I am going on for a little bit long. I'm getting tired of listening to
all good.
I'm getting tired of listening to my fucking self right now.
You're on a roll.
We have a Two Guys Playing Zelda Discord channel where we do talk, we talk Zelda, but we talk a lot of other video games too. So that's kind of like, it's more really TGPC Gaming than it is Two Guys Playing Zelda. And in social media, we're out there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just search TGPC Gaming or Two Guys Playing Zelda. You can find us, but everybody stay safe out there. Stay healthy. Stay isolated. Work on your backlog. It'll help you occupy some time. And just try to make the best out of this crappy situation.